In this business, back when I started, we didn't have this technology. So it's getting old school car dogs like me to understand, hey, you've got to use this technology.
Today, I'm thrilled to chat with Dustin Collins, Vice President at Bill K Auto, a 5-store dealership group in Illinois. We dive into his winning formula of dealership software and the customer experience that keeps this self-proclaimed old school car dog ahead of the pack. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: DealerPay, Impel, and Car Dealership Guide News. And now, let's get into the show. Dustin Collins on the CDG podcast. Dustin, welcome.
Thank you, Yossi. Thank you for having me. Exciting to be here.
Good to see you again. Saw you last time in Chicago at the Cars event. Good to reconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure meeting you there.
What's in your mind nowadays? How's life?
Life's going pretty good. Just trying to sell as many cars as possible, close out this year, coming up on the holidays. So we need to, only a couple months left of this year. We got to keep pushing on every level, close out strong. So that's the mindset here.
What's the vibe right now in the store? Like, what's the sentiment? If I walked in, how does it feel? People excited for end of year, energized, a little, maybe not so much, or, affordability is still an issue. Like, what's the general vibe?
I think the general vibe is energizing. We seem to have a little bit of dip going on last month, seemed to be a little slower, but this month's been off to a better start. I think people are, with inventory levels are growing, they got more options, more choices. I don't think there's a stress of, where are we going to find this car at? I think they're able to find what they're looking for. So if you have that, you treat them right, I think you're able to, help them out, get them the car you want. So I'd say the vibe is good. It's high energy around here. That's how we try to roll.
Take us back a little bit. Tell us about your story, your upbringing in the car business and bring us up till today of what you're doing today at Bill K.
Yes, absolutely. So I got in this business very young. I started washing cars at 15 years old, learning my keep in the detail shop. And then my stepfather was selling cars at a large Ford dealer in Chicago and got me to come on to sell cars at age 17. So very young, very green in the car business. But I knew right away that I really liked it. I loved cars. I had a passion for cars and dealing with people. I love interacting with people, talking to people, and watching them get what they want is exciting also, watching those smiles on their faces. So I started out selling cars at 17 years old, took it very serious, had to adapt to the long hours. Obviously, back then we were working 9 to 9:30 at night, grinding 8:30 to 8 o'clock on Saturdays. And then I just took it very serious and listened to a lot of the gentlemen that I worked with that were successful. I would sit and listen to them and say, wow, this guy says this and he knows what he's talking about. Maybe I would change it a little bit. That might be a little harsher, a little different than my approach would be on that. But I listened to the successful people around me and I wanted to learn. I always said it's kind of like a vampire bit me. I was, boom, I was hooked to the car business. So by age 20, I became a sales manager and closer. So I was in charge of coming out and talking to customers and closing the deals and coming over objections that, they had at the time of purchasing, and learning more about management, and got really into the used car side of things, got involved in purchasing used cars. So I was going to the auction, buying cars. I'd started out at Ford, and then I'd moved over to a Jaguar, Volvo, Land Rover location, which was an awesome brand, really exciting brand at those times. And so anytime there was an opportunity in the dealership to fill in for a position, I was willing to do that. If someone, was on vacation or someone was, changed positions in the dealership or no longer with the company, when they'd say, hey, who wants to do new cars? I'll do new cars. Who wants to do used cars? I'll do used cars. So just kind of learning every department that there was. So I stayed with that at Jaguar for a few years, and then we were acquired by another big dealer group. Bought us, and I stuck around there for a couple of years, learning that. And then I was able to, I started a luxury wholesale business myself that I had for 10 years, selling cars all over the Chicagoland area, mainly Highline. So dealers would take in a trade, call me for a buy figure. I would put that buy figure on and then pass it on. So did that for about 10 years. And then a good friend of mine was working at Bill K Ford and said, hey, we're looking for some help here. We'd like to bring in a guy with your experience and energy to try to help re-energize the store and bring it back to life. And always heard great things about Bill K and met him, was very impressed with him and the organization, and came on and started at our Ford store, and we just started bringing that place back to life and getting the numbers up. And then I got involved into the Chevrolet location and started changing the process and adapting some of the things that we were doing at Ford to grow this place and get it rocking and building my relationship with Bill Kay.
You came up the variable route, right? You came up sales. Today you're VP. You're overseeing every department of the dealership. I think a couple things. I think number one is your story is super relatable. Like everything you just said, I'm nodding. I'm like, yep. Watched Cars at 15. Yep. Listen to the best people at the dealership and tried to copy what they're doing. Yep. Every time there was an opening in another department, raised your hand. Yep. Like that is the tried and true playbook. I think anyone listening to this that wants to or has aspirations or is just curious kind of, how the dealership career progression happens. I think what you just laid out is sort of the most natural way and it's tried and true. I'm curious to know how you, given the fact that today you oversee the entire dealership, you came up in variable. How did you cut your teeth in the fixed ops side of the business? Like, how did you come up to speed to be able to oversee the entire dealership, having been a variable guy focused on sales, today overseeing, many, many different departments? What was your strategy for that? How did you, really get acclimated with that?
That's a great question, because as you come up on the sales side, you're always thinking about the front of the house. You're not thinking about the back of the house. And really, most guys in the front don't know what's going on in the back. So it was with ownership. I was intrigued on, the expense structures of the dealership and the revenue that could come in on the back of the house, and the importance of, keeping that retention and knowing that if our customers are happy back there, they're going to continue to be happy customers up front. So went with ownership and had him explain to me everything that goes on in fixed ops. And we have a great service director here at Bill Kay. So I was able to sit down with him and kind of break my way in through him showing me how each metrics works in that department, and taking training on that, taking, classes and learning that through individuals that work for us for a long time. Our service director's been in the business over 40 years.
What's your definition of a great service director in this business? Curious.
Great service director, someone that's, constantly watching your effective labor rate, your hours per RO, managing the people, watching your unapplied time so that we don't have people.
Can you explain that? I think for anyone listening, you just, to you, it's like so natural. I'm sure there's some people that are, okay, tell me more. Can you explain like effective labor rate and every metric you just mentioned? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So our metrics on the effective labor rate is, watching the jobs that are being sold by the service writers and the technicians, and make sure that those metrics fall in place for industry standards, so that we're not, you're not leaving money on the table back there. You're making sure that it's effective, it's cost effective, and really, in the parts department as well, is making sure that your parts department is not ordering non-selling parts, which become obsolescent. So what that is, if the parts manager's ordering a bunch of parts that are not going to sell, they sit on a shelf back in your dealership and they deteriorate. They're not worth, they're not worth what they were when you purchased them, and you're not selling them. So you end up selling those for pennies on the dollar to move those out. So it's really following those metrics. And unapplied time would be, technicians that are, not booking their 40 hours, they're booking 32 hours. So why is that happening? Is there not enough work in the shop? Are we not spreading and dispatching the work around the shop more? So it's really, a good service director would be someone that's managing all those metrics and have buy-in from the full team and the service writers to make sure once that process is put in place, that it is ran properly. And there's so many things that go on back there. I mean, I learn something every day different that's going on back there. So someone that has their, full bird's eye view of that whole department and is managing all aspects of it, that's a great service director, because there's so many things to look at every day. If you don't have someone laser focused on that, it could take you down a bad path right away.
Dustin, just tell us a little bit about like your average day, right? What are you focusing on? Where is your focus typically drifting? What are, the core key performance indicators you're tracking? Give us a little, sneak peek of what that looks like.
Yeah. So when I come in every day, I look into, we have a system, VIN Solutions, and that will tell us everything that's going on with our leads, every internet lead that's come in today, every sales call that has come in, every email that's gone out, every email that's come in. So when I come in, and I do a lot of this at night too. I don't sleep a whole lot. That's another thing, this business to keep you pretty active. So at night and in the morning, I'm looking at these numbers all the time because there's constantly things changing. So I come in, I look at the leads, how many came in, how many appointments were set off those leads. So when we look at an internet lead, we want us to set, 20% plus percentage of those leads that are coming in need to turn into an appointment. We want 50% of those appointments to show up, 50% of those appointments to be sold. So I look at how the correspondence went out with the customers to make sure that questions are being answered right, because you will see a customer send in an email saying, hey, does this car have heated seats? And you'll get a response. Can you come in for a test drive today? So you're not answering the consumer's question, and that can be frustrating for the consumer. So I look at the correspondence of what's going on for that. Look at our appointments, make sure the appointments are being confirmed by management so that an authority figure is on the phone with the client to make sure that any questions that need to be answered prior to arrival for the appointment. Then I go in, I look at our used cars, our merchandising to make sure that the used cars have photos, videos. For us, we use vAuto. vAuto is a great tool. It shows us everything that's going on in our inventory. And under the photo in vAuto, we put a tagline for us that we can see, the consumer cannot see, but it has a date on there of when we actually purchased the vehicle. It'll say inbound on it. And when the vehicle actually gets here and the service RO is opened on it, we put that date on there. So I'm able to track how long it's taking our cars to get through the shop until they're on our front line, photoed and video. So I watch that, because if you're not merchandising the vehicles, you're not going to be selling them. So staying on management, making sure that these cars, that process is being followed. When I watch it, if I can see a date on a car, 12 days ago and it doesn't have a photo, I know that's a problem. So identifying those, making sure that they're getting in the shop on a timely manner, and that communication is being brought up to the used car manager to approve work that needs to be done. So I take a look at that. I also walk the property every day, everywhere around here, to just check out everything, see what's going on. I get with the service director in the morning. I go in a system. We have X time to look at how many appointments we have scheduled for the day, how many of those appointments have shown up, are those appointments on time, what's going on with those, and getting with the overall management to see if there's any concerns or issues and problems that may have been brought up that need to be addressed right away. Then I usually also will page the staff up to the sales tower, and we just kind of do a pump it up meeting every day. Hey, gentlemen, we're here today. You're here from 8 to 8 today, as we call it, the big fishbowl, right? Looking out these big glass showroom windows all day. So when we're here, you're here all day. There's nothing you can do other than you need to be productive. So instead of looking out that fishbowl all day, let's get involved with the processes, what's going on with their leads, what's going on with their appointments. We want to make sure that when the salespeople, I look at the appointments, I want to make sure. Another thing I look at, Yossi, is are the cars pulled up, cleaned, and ready for the customer? Because if a customer gets here, as we all say, it's the most frustrating thing, right? No one wants to spend time at the dealership. When I talk to friends, family members,
100%.
right? You hear, I'm sure you talk to so many people, no one wants to spend time at the dealership, right? They want to come here. Oh, I'll go to a car dealership. It's 8 hours. So I scrutinize that process. We want it to be as seamless as possible. So I look to make sure, hey, there's 6 confirmed appointments. Are those 6 cars pulled up front with the customer's name on it, reserved, with a video sent to that customer saying, hey, Yossi, we're looking forward to seeing you today at 3:00. So I look at that process, and after that, it's let's get after it. There's a lot that goes on. I could go on and on, Yossi, of what I got to do every day, but there's a lot of moving parts of this.
This episode is brought to you by Dealer Pay. Are you tired of payment nightmares at your dealership? With most processors, you're stuck with confusing fees, outdated terminals, and robotic customer service. But Dealer Pay is here to change that. They offer modern point-of-sale software, unbeatable customer support, and transparent pricing, so you can say goodbye to payment surprises. Upgrade your dealership's payment system today with Dealer Pay and experience the difference. Visit dealer-pay.com to schedule a demo. Again, that's dealer-pay.com, or click the link in the show notes below. I want to zoom out for a second, right? It seems like you're clearly a very hands-on leader, which I think is part of the, that's just part of the ethos of a good dealer, a good entrepreneur. What's your biggest challenge nowadays? Right? And I'm sure there's many, but just like high level, What are keeping you up at night? You say you don't sleep much, so that's an easy question. But in all seriousness, like what is where are you focusing on? Where are you really running into challenges?
I would say getting management to understand the big picture. We're just training on understanding this new car inventory turn. You need to sell this new car inventory. Before, last year we were carrying about 50% less inventory than we are now because, obviously with COVID and demand and chip shortage and things like that, we weren't having those inventory availability. Now that inventory level has grown, you need to get the managers to understand, number one, the customer can now go buy somewhere else because they have options. Why did they need to buy from us? So the customer experience needs to be great in order for you to attract that customer and get the sale with them. So,
Dustin, are you finding it challenging to instill that type of mentality within your management? I mean, has your management been with you for over 5 years pre-pandemic? Are they more recent hires?
They are pre-pandemic. I have one that's been with me over 10 years in management. So yeah, I think the challenge is getting them to understand, hey, that they have options and you need to turn this inventory, because what they don't look at, and you can't blame them, and at most dealerships they won't, the management is not looking at what you're paying on your floor plan. So when you're looking at these cars, these inventory levels are now sitting on your lot. You're paying floor plan on these. So you're paying interest on these vehicles to be sitting here. You need to be churning those. If you're not churning those, you're not earning. So you're paying interest on these vehicles, and you're also not turning them and earning extra allocation from the OEMs. So I think it's just getting the management to understand we are here. We need to have happy customers, and we need to continue to turn this inventory to maximize our opportunities. So I think that's a big challenge as inventory levels grow and interest rates have gone up. You need to be in the mindset of, hey, we don't have half the cars that everybody was coming in here during COVID saying, hey, please tell me you have this, and we'll take it right now. So you were able to sell those cars a lot easier than you are now.
What have you seen when you look at your just net profits over the last 6 to 12 months? What's been the trend? I mean, clearly we know the trend has been down, but can you be like a little bit more specific with your store? I would actually make this two-part question. What franchises are you currently overseeing? And then what has been your net profitability trend?
I would say, so I have Chevrolet, Buick GMC, Nissan, and Honda. And the net profits are, they're down this year. I mean, it's the demand has cooled off a little bit, which is obviously going to, change pricing. So and as inventory levels have grown, so have they at your competitors. So it's a lot more aggressive out there now, so that affects your profitability. Interest rates going up, that's going to affect your finance department. You have to be aggressive. You have to make these loans affordable for your customers. They're not going to be able to close those deals. So that definitely affects net profit. And again, talking about the big part of inventory sitting on your lot. If you have inventory, once you are invoiced on a vehicle from the manufacturer, depending on the price of the vehicle, you receive a credit, a floor plan credit to carry a carrying cost on that vehicle. So if you turn that vehicle fast enough, you have that credit. So your inventory can become a streamline of income for you. So, hey, I got, these 100 cars sitting on the lot, but they're not affecting me as much because we're turning them so fast that our inventory credits are helping us with the profit. When those inventories sit, your credits have now become an expense. So that flips upside down to where you may have a $20,000 credit on your inventory. Now you have a $20,000 expense. So those things definitely affect the net profit right now in this current market.
How have you been forecasting? I mean, when you're planning, yes, you're like you just stated, right? Last couple of years, rates shot up significantly, which was obviously very, that was super just deflationary for the industry and obviously compressed margins. Now we're in a period where rates are slowly declining, hasn't really had a big impact on the car business yet, but to be determined. How are you just planning out your next couple of months, even when you think about inventory acquisition and having the right type of vehicles, to serve the market, given that profits have consistently declined over the last couple of years? How are you forecasting that stuff, and how are you just preparing for what's next?
Right. That's a great question. I mean, that's something we talk about all the time because it changes so much. For us right now, as we're forecasting more volume, By how? We have more inventory now, being more aggressive pricing strategy on turning those vehicles. So for us, we know the profitability per unit is going to go down. So we need to increase the velocity turn of our inventory. So it's really forecasting on, turning those inventory as fast as you can. So with our used vehicles, we have a corporate buyer that buys for all our locations. He's got a great pulse on what's going on for the market. So when we're forecasting with him, we're looking at data in vAuto, global search, profit time, looking at what's our fastest turning units on those and buying those. And also, you'll see what's going on right now on the new car side. We say what keeps me up at night is also getting the new car managers to understand taking that new car inventory and trying to dealer trade for another vehicle to find some of the fast and turning units. So when we're forecasting going, okay, we know that, this particular model is not working well for us. Let's try to trade out of this model line for one that may be faster turning for us. And the one we have is better for somebody else. So as we're forecasting, we're looking at inventory is key, right? If you don't, you can have the right vision, structure, process, people. But if you have the wrong inventory, it's a problem. So
it all starts with inventory. Now, okay, so you mentioned you're forecasting higher volumes and just having to do that. Now, what's your pricing strategy, right? Because if you want to push higher volumes, I have to imagine part of that is just pricing more aggressively. Not all of it, but part of it. How do you price your vehicles? And then how have you been, have you changed that strategy? What is that?
Yes. So we price, the great things about these products that we now have that we didn't all the years back when I started in the car business that we have is we have the technology to platforms like vAuto, and they have Conquest on the new car side. It tells us what's going on in the market and where we need to price at. So when we look at those strategies, we look at where our competitors are pricing, and we try to be, right there with them, if not, below, to make sure that we're getting our opportunities to get that customer lead and then try to get the door.
But do you have like a specific strategy that you can share? I mean, do you just target like a percent to market? Anything specific like that?
Well, we look at models. So we look at the current models and trim levels and look at our competitors. What are they selling? A Chevy Trax at that's an RS model. What are they selling at? And quite frankly, we'll try to be about $500 cheaper than somebody else to try to entice that customer to want to come our way.
So what's your average? What's your profit per vehicle? Would you say, on the front, on the back, new, used?
Yeah, I mean your profits on the front, they range obviously on the new car side. You're going to be a little more aggressive on those, so you're probably averaging around $1,500 on the front end of those, where you're closer to the $1,800 to $2,000 on the front of those, and probably around the $1,500 to $1,700 on the back end also.
Yeah, and the $1,800 you're talking about on the used vehicles only, right?
Yes, on the used vehicles, those seem to have a little bit more. As we know, used cars are like snowflakes. Are two of the same. So if you have the right one, the right car, the right miles, the right equipment, well, then you can ask a little more for that car, because where are you going to find it?
Now, in terms of, you mentioned your corporate buyer. What are you doing for used vehicle sourcing?
So used vehicle sourcing, we buy at Manheim Auto Auction, as probably everybody does, right? They're the biggest. So we do that. We obviously go out to Smart Auction. We try to buy our lease returns that come in, but we're also really going after our service department, right? All the customers that are coming in to get tire and wheel alignments and oil change and things like that. We market those customers also, those not in market customers, to try to buy those cars out of our service department or trade those customers in. And we're able to get the inventory that way. Your acquisition cost is far less than going to an auction. Whereas we know when you have disasters like hurricanes and things like that disrupt the market, and every dealer's scrambling for inventory, that creates a competition that everybody has to, you got to be the guy with your hand in the air at the end. So you're penning up the cars.
Two questions on that. One, I want to start with leases. How are you, do you feel like you're maximizing your lease return resales, like from leases that are being returned to you? Do you feel like you're really maximizing the resale with your team?
Yes, I would say some of the challenges have been what you could lease a car for 3 years ago is completely different than what you could now, right? As the rates have gone up, the incentives have gone away, the cost of the vehicle has gone up. So that has been a challenge as someone that's leased a car 3 years ago comes in and says, okay, we're prepared to lease a new one. Well, that payment you had last time is going to be a little bit different due to those situations that we just named there with the interest rates and rebates going away. So I think we'll build back to that. That's something we are starting to focus on now as those incentives get better for people to lease. But yes, if we get a lease vehicle that's coming in, we're definitely purchasing that from the manufacturer.
Okay. And then further down the funnel, what about retailing those vehicles that are returned to you? How are you making any concerted effort to maximize that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, those are, those a lot of times based on the residual value and the people bought those, you could get those vehicles come in, at a good price point for us. We're not fighting at the auction again for that vehicle. So it's reconning those cars, bringing them in. Usually someone that leases is a little more cautious of how they maintain and take care of the vehicle. So you don't have as much recon when they come in, body damage, things like that. So you're able to get those through the shop and get those merchandise quicker. So absolutely. They're usually a good low mile 3-year vehicle that's coming back. I think if you ask any dealer, they'd say, yeah, line me up with those. I'll take them all day.
So now let's flip to my other question, which is you mentioned that you've been acquiring vehicles that are entering the service lane. How are you incentivizing the team? Right? How are you really making sure that, you're turning over every stone and that's actually happening? I think if you think about the industry in a very broad sense, I heard Ernie Garcia, CEO of Carvana, say this one time, and I really liked the way he phrased this, which is that, the used car business specifically is just a bunch of people trading cars, right? They bring it to a dealer, another person buys it. And if you think about it, if that was a perfectly efficient machine, you arguably would almost not have auctions, right? Or I should say, if every vehicle went to a dealership directly and then went to the end consumer, there would be no auctions, right? So I think it's the idea it makes total sense to see why buying cars from the street is only going to continue growing. It's like, I call it like a secular trend because it just makes sense. Economics are better, and dealers are equipped to do it. Plus, with quality used car inventory at all-time lows, you sort of have to do it. But I'm curious to know, how are you actually incentivizing your team to make sure that you're doing this, very effectively and capturing, every potential vehicle that you can that's entering the service lane?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we're doing, our process here with that is the service writers are involved in that, right? You got to have service and sales kind of work together on that. Service says, hey, you're back here talking to my customer. This is my customer. Now you're trying to sell my customer a car. What's going on with this customer? So you have to have buy-in from sales and service and great communication on that in order for that to work. So we spiff the service writers. We do give them an incentive, a bird dog, if we were able to. They bring a client from the service department up to the sales department and they make a purchase. We will give an incentive to the service writer for doing that, as well as we have a VIP manager here. And that VIP manager looks at the scheduled appointments previous day. So they'll look to see who's coming in tomorrow, and they reach out to that customer, let them know, hey, while you're here, we'd like to take a look at your vehicle. Please ask for the VIP manager when you're at the service department. So when those customers come in, the service writer, oh, you also would like to see our VIP manager? The service writer brings them to the VIP manager, which does a nice introduction to the sales department. Hi, this is a sales manager that would like to take a look at your vehicle today. And then we sit them down, and the salesperson then takes them through a process as if they'd like to upgrade their vehicle or just outright sell their vehicle. So as we like to tell people here, when you're looking, as we said, the big fishbowl, the salespeople will stare out the front door all day while everybody's coming in the back door, right? You have all these great customers that obviously have bought from you. They trust you. They believe in your service. So they're coming back. You're servicing. Why not take care of those people again and find a program that could work from them and upgrade them into another vehicle? So, and then we're able to get great vehicles because we know that they're being serviced. We're able to look up history very easy on them. Generally, that person's bought a car from us, so there's a relationship there, and you're able to acquire good quality vehicles that are in your local area, that your recon time and shipping times have all now been shortened, and you're able to turn that inventory faster. So it's just a smarter way is marketing your own clients, right? They already have a relationship with you.
This episode is brought to you by Impel. A word of caution to dealers. Open source large language models like GPT are conversation tools, not business solutions. If you want to embrace results and not risk, choose AI that's purpose-built for automotive retail and drives dealer results throughout the entire customer journey, from website to chat to sales to service. Impel AI is custom built to drive dealer business objectives and features a proprietary blend of large language models, automotive optimization layers, and seamless integration with your entire tech stack. The result, exceptional customer service experiences and increased customer lifetime value, and that means more revenue and greater profitability. Embrace results, not risk with Impel AI. Visit impel.ai or click the link in the show notes below to see what the future of AI looks like today.
I noticed you mentioned a bunch of tools just through this conversation. I have to imagine that through the service drive, are you using AccuTrade?
Yes, we do use AccuTrade, which we are a big fan on at this dealership, as you know. I've spoken to you about that.
That's what I figured. What's your just general take on dealership technology? Because it just seems like you're very in tune with this part of our industry. And you're clearly very big into leveraging different tools. That's just my assumption here based on everything you've said so far. What's your take on dealership technology? Have you been deploying more AI tools in your dealership? Anything like what's that been like for you? I'm curious to know how you're thinking about that nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think dealership technology is growing and changing right away. I mean, one thing that we identified is vAuto that we've used for years, been a product. They have an extension product called Profit Time. And that technology really gives you different segments of your vehicle as a platinum, gold, silver, bronze. It lets you know how you need to turn these vehicles faster, where you should price them at, which ones are gold, platinum vehicles that are harder ones to find. So, to hold on to those values. So I think the technology is great. I think one of the biggest things you need to do with technology as a dealer is to make sure that your managers that work in the stores understand that technology. So as this technology is changing, we're big into training. We want our managers to be certified in the tools that we use. So
you're training your team with the actual vendors that are supplying you this technology?
Yes. Exactly, because they should be a master of that technology. They need to use these tools because, in this business, it's, back when I started, we didn't have this technology. So it's getting, old school car dogs like me to understand, hey, you've got to use this technology. AI, some of our locations are using that to schedule service appointments now.
How's that working for you?
It's working pretty good. I think the response times are fast, right? I mean, one of the biggest things you don't want to have happen in a dealership that we actually track is drop phone calls. You don't want to see phone calls going to someone's voicemail that's not going to get back to them. You don't want to see someone calling your service department and saying, hey, is my vehicle ready for pickup? I need to come at 3:00 as scheduled. Someone is getting back to these people. So I think the AI part of that is definitely growing. It's something that we're really just starting to dive into. We're getting pitched by, several companies come out with the AI. So I think we will definitely grow with it as it grows in our industry. But it's very important. And I cannot say it enough. You have to have your staff understand how important it is and knowing how the technology actually works, because you're also paying for these systems. So if you're paying for these products and you're not maximizing them, then you're doing an injustice to the dealership and to the business and to our clients. So it's understanding that and using that to the best of the ability.
So yeah, and you mentioned that, you said you're an old school car dog. I'm curious to know what has it been like for you adopting all these new technologies? I mean, is it something that you've just been very interested in? Are you kind of in a state of mind like, hey, I got to do this? What's your general mentality?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is. I think the technology has intrigued me. It's like, wow, there's science to this. If you do this, you get this result and this works. So yeah, I think it intrigues me. And I think you have to be a sponge. I wake up every day trying to learn something else. If you're not, then you're not growing, you're dying, right? I mean, you need to be.
I totally agree with you.
Right.
I mean, I fully agree with you. It's in any industry, right? But if you look at this industry has changed so significantly. There's been like a step function change where we went from selling cars to being, technology wizards that happen to also sell cars. If you really think about it, every part of the dealership today touches some tool that has some mechanism behind. I mean, everything is data. Everything is data, and that's driving every department, whether it be inventory, service, labor, lead, sales. So I think your point, just continuing to be a sponge, absorb that knowledge, and ask questions, because it's always evolving and it's going to continue evolving. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to be.
So now I'm curious, all that said, how are you handling marketing? Right? You have the inventory, you have the people, you have the training, but marketing, what is any specific strategies there?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of to back up a little bit, what you said about all these tools that we use, right? They all bring data. And as we look at this data, we're able to make decisions on that data. So we have a marketing director for our whole auto group here that manages our marketing and every aspect of it daily and brings that to my attention daily, other general managers' attention daily. And then we have a weekly owners meeting that we bring up our marketing and strategy. So he's able to tell us, hey, this lead is working. Here's the performance that we're getting off of it. Here's our ROI on it. Hey, this seems to be dropped off. This is slow. What's going on with this? Maybe we should get rid of this and move and try over here. So instead of constantly adding to the marketing, we're trying to, as we say, we don't want to shoot buckshot, right? No one wants to come out and just shoot buckshot and spray everywhere and say, okay, let's advertise everywhere. Let's try everything. You want to be more of a sharpshooter and find out what's working and hit those metrics in those areas. So it's really putting the science and the data behind all of this, which is great. Now with all this technology, you're able to look at all this data. And what's also great about this data is accountability for management and the staff in the store. You're able to look at and say, based on this marketing, this performance, amount of leads you have, amount of showroom visits you have, where's our sales at? So that's, a big part of that. So
there's the saying, the famous saying, which I'm sure many people here have heard, which is half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. And I think, it's tried and true. But let me ask you this question. There's this adage as well, which is that in the dealership, right, the dealer principal, or call it, the GM, right, is the ultimate marketer. They are really the marketer. I'm curious to know how you operate your dealership, right? Like, is your marketing director more of a scientific data whiz, or are they really calling the shots with, creative, deals? Like, what type of, I just think a lot of dealerships wrestle with this, right? Like, what competency are you really looking for in a marketing director nowadays? I struggled with this for a very long time because marketing has really shifted, right? Go back 20 years. Marketing was this very right brain activity. Like, let me be creative, right? It was very different than it is today. Today, marketing, you have the unicorns who are left brain and right brain, which are, scientific and creative. But more often than not, you have either someone who's more left brain, more right brain. The left brain being they're more numbers driven data people. And that is, that's a big part of the modern marketer. Now, just to be clear, not to be conflated with the modern content creator, which many dealerships now have in-house content creators, or they just have salespeople who are great at creating content and are posting it to social and attracting business that way. How do you think about your dealership and actually, the marketing function, your marketing director, right? What they are accountable for, what you're accountable for, what salespeople may be accountable for?
Yeah, so awesome. Yes, our marketing director has to put all this research.
You're like Yossi. What the hell are you talking about, man? I just sell cars. Leave me the hell alone.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, Yossi. I just want to go outside and shake someone's hand and close the deal. No, and that's what it used to be, right? It used to be like you said, hey, put a good price on a windshield, get somebody to drive by. I said it, but you gotta,
no, baby, no.
Right.
Now you gotta post on TikTok every morning. Let's go.
You gotta be on TikTok. Gotta do podcasts, right? Social media. It used to be someone drove by, they bought where their dad bought, they serviced where their grandpa serviced his car. They drove by, saw a balloon out in front of the dealership and pulled in. Those days are over. So I think the biggest thing you got to have is trust, right? So we need to trust our marketing director that, they're bringing the data and the research to us. We need to understand the data that they're bringing to us, but you need to entrust in them that they're making the right moves for us. I mean, I could sit here and put my thumb on him all day and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. He's the expert in that field. So I need to trust that he is, and we learn together. And that's why we're constant communication of what's going on, because one thing I've seen and learned in marketing is you can't panic. We'll start something and it's in 2 weeks and we're like, oh my God, in 2 weeks, we didn't see some huge lift. Let's scrap that program. Well, you didn't give it enough time to involve and get everybody involved. You learn a process takes a long time to get started, and you got to stand behind it all the time, or everybody wants to go right back to doing what they used to do, right? Oh, we don't need to do that. We did that yesterday. That worked, so we'll get rid of it. So for marketing, we need someone that can bring us all the reports and data and ROI reports, so we're able to look at it, say we made an investment on this vendor in advertising, and it brought back X amount of sales at X amount of dollars, and it worked for us. So it's really, you cannot look at it. We don't meet with our marketing manager once a month or every 2 weeks. We talk daily, multiple times throughout the day of what's going on, because the last thing you want to do is wake up and it's the last day of the month and you're going, wow, we should have made that adjustment. Now you just wasted a whole month. You need to be hands-on, understanding what's going on now, what's the pulse going on. Your marketing guy's in tune, trusted. He's talking to the vendors. He's holding meetings, finding out best practices. We're working to, best prices, what we can do. So it's having that right key person. I mean, they're a quarterback in the dealership. They're a very important person to have. So we're very fortunate to have the marketing manager we have here in our group. Does a great job with us and explains everything to myself and ownership, and we make educated decisions based on it.
And then in terms of, like you say, we make educated decisions. What are those decisions? I mean, any specific strategies working very well for you lately in this, in this environment with growing inventories, declining margins? Any specific strategy working very well?
Well, we know that, our digital presence is huge. We need to grow our social media. We need to, Facebook Marketplace, our vehicles, and really, making those decisions are sometimes tough. You build good relationship with some of these vendors, and sometimes that product just is not working for us. So that educated decision would be, do we need to pay $8,000 a month to use that system anymore? Maybe it is time to go ahead and cancel that and allocate that money somewhere else where we are seeing better results at that time. And so it just really makes.
Where are you seeing the best results right now? Is there any platform specifically that you can name? Or
I mean, for us, online presence, we do great with cars.com. Cars.com brings in a lot of traffic for us. So we like the relationship with them. It's always great feedback with them. Their reps are boots on the ground in the store talking to us. So we do really well with them.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that you're located next to their headquarters?
You would think, yes. No, actually, no, they hear about that. As you heard me in the meeting with them, is, hey, where are my cars showing up? If I'm merchandising right, where are my cars at? And another one, Car Guru, we'll throw them a shout out there too. I think they've built a great platform, customer friendly, and we seem to get a lot of leads off of that. And, we like that. Another great lead source, Auto Alert. We use that as an equity mining position, which kind of goes back to earlier work in the service drive. We're able to identify some of those service appointments in equity positions and what's going on with their vehicle. So that's another great lead source for us too. And again, you can have all of these, but if your managers are not using them properly, then you're just wasting money and time.
This episode is brought to you by my very own Car Dealership Guy News. CDG News is here to help you stay updated on all things automotive. We're not your typical news crew. We're bringing you concise, unbiased car industry news in easy to digest formats. From the hottest headlines to podcast summaries, dealership best practices, and industry insights, we've got it all covered. And guess what? It's all free, no paywalls, just like we always promise. Hop over to cdg.news, that's cdg.news, and check us out. We're all ears for your feedback. Tell us what you need. Give us your honest thoughts. We're here to deliver real value. So don't wait. Head to cdg.news now or click the link in the show notes below.
All right, so Dustin, we spoke about many different parts of the dealership. I want to shift to the softer part, which is employees. And what I mean by soft, I mean, it's not hard, it's not numbers, it's actual people. How do you think about employee retention and, nurturing your employee base, growing the team long term, given, again, we're in an industry that's changing very rapidly, whether it be the way we operate, the customer expectations. So what's your take on just employee retention in general?
No, that's huge. It's a big part of the dealership, right? I mean, I'm a big football guy. Look at, offenses that work, teams that are winning. You got to have a winning locker room, right? So it's, employee retention is very important. I mean, I think when you interview someone as a manager, the best time to fire somebody is during the interview. So you want to hire the right people, but you have to, when you're lucky enough to get those right people, which is harder to find in these days in this industry, you have to treat them right. You have to treat employees right so that they're, I kind of look at it as being in a relationship and going to work. I've never wanted to pull in the driveway and go, oh my God, I'm home now. I want to pull in my driveway and go, yes, I'm home now. I'm excited to be home. I can relax. I want that same result here at the dealership. You want the employees pulling up every day, happy to be here, right? Because their negative attitude or their unhappy or, not willing to be here today, that gets pushed on your customer, right? That becomes a customer experience. An unhappy employee equals a bad customer experience. So you want the employees happy. So you have to value them. So you can't just point out things wrong that they do all the time. You have to know when to praise them also. You got to say, hey, that was a great job. That guy hustled. He was having a slow month. So I think a big thing that we try to do here is you put processes in place. You have to manage the processes. The managers do. But it's big to do a one-on-one with the employees because you're managing a process and the whole dealership. But when you sit down with someone and say, hey, you know what? You put a goal down. I'm big at goals. Put a goal out there, and then we got to try to do everything as a team to hit that goal. And if you didn't hit that goal, why? So by doing one-on-ones, you could sit down and you kind of find out what's going on in that person's life. You may say, hey, what's going on, Yossi? I mean, you told me you're going to sell 14 cars. You're only pacing 9 cars. What's going on? You might find out that person's got something going on with a child at home or with their spouse or with a parent, something happening in their life. So you might have to step in and motivate that person and say, hey, you know what? We're going to figure this out. You're a big part of our team here. And we got your back. And so we're not some big corporation where you're just a number to us. You're a person. I'm a very personable guy. I love talking to all the staff. Ownership does too. So you got to make it like a big family. And I think if you do that, you get retention with your employees, you get loyalty with your employees, buy-in, and then you're also able to promote. See, from within, if you could take a guy and you could promote him, I think everybody's out. Hey, let's put an ad out and let's try to find somebody. You could have the perfect candidate sitting right in your showroom right here that's already went through your process. Right? I mean, they understand how you operate, how you do business, how you want your goals to be hit. And you could promote that person and they think the way you think. And then there's that loyalty of, wow, this guy brought me up in the business. So I think employees are huge. You have to treat them right. And we are very fortunate. We don't have high turnover. I mean, I'm looking out the window at Chevy here and I can see the guys out on the floor. We got guys from all walks of life and just a great team. So I think if you got to keep it fun, serious, you got to handle business, but you got to have fun. You want them excited and fired up to come to work every day. So big thing on employee retention. I believe in the employees. Without them, we don't have any.
Between managing people and managing the operations, I know you previously managed some very large luxury stores. Today, you're in more mainstream brands. Did you ever notice any difference between the people management and the operational management between those stores to these, or what were the most significant differences in your mind with either?
My mind, I would say customer service, Yossi. I think everybody figures, hey, they're buying a Mercedes, they're buying a Jaguar, Volvo, Audi, they're buying a more expensive vehicle, that client deserves a better experience. I think it's expected. That standard is held a little higher because they think, okay, we're spending a lot more money. But why can't that same experience be passed on to the domestic customer? And I think that's something that gravitated towards me is, hey, everybody should have a good experience. And as we look, Tahoes and things like these and Yukons, they're $80,000 to $100,000 now. People are spending large amounts of money. So I think for me, it's a little more of a higher volume side on the domestic, but I think the customer experience was a little bit better on the luxury side. And we're trying to bring that atmosphere here for the domestic customer. They deserve to be treated well. Everybody works hard for their money. They can spend it anywhere they want, right? There's dealerships all over the place. So you got to treat them well. And that's what's deserving. So I think I take, if anything, from the Highline side, I bring customer service down to the domestic side of the car business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a good point, right? It's like if you can bring that type of experience to the more mainstream brands, I mean, it's a winning formula. Like you said, why should it be any different? Regardless of what someone spent, that's that experience. That's sort of that's the philosophy I grew up with, which was, when we served in the used car business, but specifically a subprime customer, right? If you can give them that prime experience, you just want a customer for life. They may not buy from you again, not because they don't want to, but maybe they actually don't make their payments on time, but they will refer people to you. And if they buy from you as well, I mean, it's a double whammy right there. So it's a win-win. And I couldn't agree more.
Another thing I would touch on that we bring, hearing what the luxury brands do that we're now pushing here also, is media, right? You bring your vehicle in for service. We want to send you a video of, hey, Yossi, here's the car that you brought in. Here's what your brake pads and rotors look like. We found a nail in the tire. Here's what we are requesting that you should do to your vehicle. I think that's transparency. Someone's able to look at it, right? If you had a family member, if my wife or if I had a daughter went to a dealership and they said, hey, we came in for an oil change, and they told her, well, we also found about $700 worth of recommendations, and they were to call, you might say, hey, you know what? I would get out of there. They're probably trying to charge you too much money. But then a video comes over and shows you what needs to be done. I think you realize, wow, the trust factor's there, right? They just sent a video. Maybe my wife needs those brakes. That's a safety issue for her. So I think on the Highline experience, bringing that also to us and using platforms of media, transparency, and also, Yossi, if you brought a car into our service department and we didn't find it needed any additional work, also sending you that video saying, hey, good job on maintaining your vehicle. Keep up the good work and let us know in the future if we can be of any help to you. So it's showing trust. We're not just here trying to sell you things. We're here to service what you actually need at an affordable price and a great experience.
Amazing. Dustin Collins, what didn't I ask you? I definitely forgot something.
Man, I don't know, brother. I don't know. I feel like I'm machine gunning all over the place. I hope I'm getting this right and sounding like I'm making sense to you.
There is no right or wrong. That's the beauty of it. Every episode appeals to a different person, and you'll get the text messages and the emails afterwards of the people that you push their buttons. It's that's the beauty of it. It's all different. What's exciting to you nowadays? Like, what's in your mind? Just like keeping you excited about the business.
I think just seeing what actually we can do. I think just as inventory levels are coming back and getting buy-in from management, I think our team is getting stronger and they're learning more and getting them to understand the big picture. I really think we could do some great things. I think we're going to go into 2025 and have a great year. I think it's laser focused. I'm laser more focused than I ever have been. Just energized, right? You got to come in here with energy. And whenever I see a new car, it still lights my eyes up. I love doing this. I think keeping that passion and spreading that passion through our staff. I'm excited that we're going to get back to doing some big numbers again.
It's beautiful. Dustin Collins, appreciate you for coming on the pod. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Hope I didn't disappoint.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.